On this Native Report, we highlight the Diné band, Sihasin, whose blend of punk folk and traditional Navajo creates space for others to learn about culture. And we learn how artist Louis Still Smoking brings history to life through his portraits and murals. We also learn what we can do to lead healthier lives and hear from our elders.
Production for Native Report is made possible by grants from the Blandin Foundation, Anishinaabe Fund, and Alexandra Smith Fund, in support of Native American treaty rights, administered through the Duluth Superior Area Community Foundation. The generous support from viewers like Jack and Sharon Kemp, DSGW Architects, personalizing architecture, online at dsgw.com, and viewers like you.
Welcome to Native Report, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Rita Karppinen. The Diné band, Sihasin, made their ways to the shores of Gitche Gumee for a special concert in Minnesota. The group's blend of punk folk and traditional Navajo creates space for others to learn about culture while acting as a call to action for issues such as climate change. We got to sit down with the band to learn about how they started making music and what other passions drive them in spreading the word about the people.
We are Sihasin from the Diné Nation. Bonjour. I know we're so excited to be here in this part of the world, the Great Lakes for us. Yeah, this is amazing just to look out and see so much water. It's incredible.
We are here to play music and to hopefully connect cultures and just enjoy the celebration of resilience that exists amongst our peoples. Started playing music as a call to action. We grew up traditionally back home in Black Mesa at the front lines of marches with our elders, with our grandmothers. Over 14,000 of our people have been forcibly relocated since the 1970s in order to extract coal from our homeland.
In the 1970s, with the multiplier effect, 14,000 people becomes hundreds of thousands of people that have been displaced over generations now.
That voice for us was really important to utilize, I think, any means possible to get the word out that these atrocities were happening. It was like here, now. You know, when we were growing up, it wasn't something that was in the history books that people read about, that they thought, oh, how sad that this is happening to Indigenous people. But it was, this is happening today, modern times, where Indigenous people are being forcibly relocated from our traditional homelands. And so music for me was a way to amplify that kind of truth that people weren't seeing anywhere else.
Well, as an Indigenous person, for us, I think story, song, it's all oral tradition, so there's a natural progression of wanting to document what is happening within our communities and to sing about it. It's just kind of this natural progression. Our singers are called hatathi, so a lot of our traditional histories are all kind of embedded throughout the songs. And then contemporary, you know, I felt like it wasn't like a decision or a choice. It was just like, this is what we know, so we just kind of started to write about it.
Lay down your body, breathe in the blood, the way to make it right is gentler. the night. Let it make you right. It's just love night.
When we started playing music, I was, I think, about the age of 8. And my sister is my older sister, Shade. So it was just, we didn't have a lot of resources and access to instruments, so we just kind of found anything to play on. I had some pots and pans or just drummed on just the soles of my shoes, whatever I had, and then started writing and making music. And it was something that we kind of picked up from our mom. She's a folk singer, songwriter, and our father, he's a traditional singer. So we grew up going to ceremonies, but also in the powwow circuit. So for us, just expression and using creativity, using song was a natural format. We just started writing songs like Resist or, you know, Fence, or songs that spoke about the atrocities that we were seeing, and the sound that we developed, it was just kind of this natural process of finding who we are, part of our path in life, our identity there.
As Sihasin, we travel as 3 generations. Our parents and, you know, and their grandchildren. And it's incredible to be able to be out in the world and to continue that cycle of education. You know, when we are back home, our cultural lens is this small. But when we're out in the world, like, our cultural lens is so much larger. And I feel like that experience is something that we're missing a lot in today's societies, that we're not able to connect the generations, or people just, maybe it's more so that people are not connecting these generations when they need to be connected.
Part of our traditional philosophy as Diné is Ke, which is just family, and it's the relations beyond just blood. We have a clan system, but there's still that recognition, even if we're not clan related. There's a family structure of looking at people with respect.
With our current band, Sihasin, it's about empowering people to take action, like empowering people to find the knowledge, to look to our elders, to look to our wisdom keepers, to their reconnection with our beautiful Mother Earth. And so that's, for me, when I play music, that's my hope, is that people have a reconnection to culture and to the earth. And that, to me, is one of the greatest actions that we can take, because it's like, when you have that kind of foundation with you, then, you know, we recognize then that there are so many more possibilities in this world, and that we are that possibility, and that we carry that forward for our ancestors.
Sometimes, you know, it's difficult, but with music, you can cut across through any boundaries, any layers, and it's something that creates bonds and unity, and it's a beautiful way of just sharing emotion.
The word Sihasin means hope, which happens to be the main message they have been spreading, with the desire to uplift youth and inspire them to tell their stories and act upon their dreams.
The first pacemaker was implanted in Sweden in 1958, and they are a wonder of engineering. They correct slow or irregular heart rhythms, and they have become relatively commonplace. Symptoms of slow or irregular heart rhythms are palpitations, lightheadedness, and syncope or fainting. Aging, heart muscle damage from a heart attack, certain medications, and some genetic conditions can cause a slow or irregular heart rate. With aerobic exercise, your heart rate speeds up, but at rest should be 60 to 100 beats per minute. Conditions such as sick sinus syndrome or heart block can cause the heart to beat too slowly to get blood flow to your brain and other vital organs. There are medications to slow down some fast heart rhythms, but none to speed up slow ones. A pacemaker is a tiny computer that monitors your heart rate from beat to beat and instantly decides if it should pace your heart. If it does, it sends an electrical signal down a set of wires or leads that are implanted in your heart. Pacemakers are about the size of a 50-cent piece and about 3 times as thick and are surgically implanted under the skin of your chest. Most likely you'll be awake during the procedure, but sedated to help you relax, and local anesthetics used for pain control. During the operation, the pacemaker is implanted close to your collarbone. The leads are inserted into a large vein and guided into your heart using specialized imaging and are attached to the heart muscles. The entire procedure takes a few hours. You will likely be in the hospital for a day after the pacemaker is implanted, so it can be programmed to fit your specific needs. Pacemakers can help you live a more active lifestyle. They can be monitored remotely by phone or computer, and your doctor will decide how often that is. The batteries can last 5 to 15 years and will give plenty of advance notice before they need to be replaced. That requires another operation, but it isn't as complicated as the initial one. The pacemaker gets changed and the leads are reused. Worldwide, more than 700,000 pacemakers are implanted every year, and they have a good track record. As always, talk to your healthcare provider if you have questions, and remember to call an elder. They've been waiting for your call. I'm Dr. Arnie Vainio, and this is Health Matters.
Heartbeat Mountain is one of the sacred mountains that we go up and we do our fasting, you guys would call it a vision quest. We go up there, we stay up there for 4 days and 4 nights to help us to, like me being a lodge keeper of the Sweat Lodge, but I also use the herbs and the roots for doctor and sick people. So I usually go up there to find out what medicines I gotta get, what medicines I gotta use for cancer, heart trouble, or whatever. Sometimes we just go in there just to cleanse our bodies, just to detox ourselves. Other times we go in there to do what they call spiritual healings, prayer. For somebody that's sick with maybe cancer or heart or something, we go in there and we pray for them. And so in the Sweat Lodge, a lot of times too, is just go in there and to help find our inner self. Especially like now, the economy's falling apart and you think it's the end of the world. So this way you go in there and it helps you to deal with the stress and stuff that's related to everything around us. We got what they call a mixed sweat. That's where women and men could sweat together. Then you got your warrior sweat where that's just all men. And then you got your woman sweat where it's just all women. So it depends on what the occasion is. Then we also do a lot of the veterans. We do the Sweat Lodge for them, doctor them in the spiritual doctoring in there, but we also use horses to help them to cope with the society around them. And that's been really successful. And I'm known as a spiritual leader in our cultural, in the Sweat Lodge, as well as in the medicines. So in a way, I'm kind of a leader in the spiritual world, but yes, just a common man in everyday life, huh?
Native artist Louis Stillsmoking brings history to life in his portraits and murals. The Blackfeet Nation artist paints in realistic Impressionism style and intends to spark interest in his Native culture through art.
We purposely put this here so everybody could see it.
We are in Heartbeat, Montana on a Blackfeet Indian reservation and standing in front of one of the murals that me and Louis Stillsmoking did for the Heartbeat School. We're at the Heartbeat Schools.
My name's Louis Stillsmoking. I'm from the Blackfeet Nation. So this mural is part of the immersion class at the Heartbeat School, and I worked on it with John Pepion. It's very unique how he draws these lines, and I love that about his work, and I think it ties in good with my work because my work's it's kind of graphic, and it's like sometimes it's lines, sometimes it's blocks of color, and sometimes it's tonal values, but it kind of really blends together nicely. So they're very complementary. Yeah, I'm glad that we collaborate because it allows us to be creative and just we have similar tastes, I think. Napi, he's like a teacher. He provides a lesson, so the story would be attributed to a certain animal. The stories that they're learning, they'll see the animal and they'll see Napi, but each story has a specific moral to it. The ability to create that for the children, and they get that sense of the visual representation, rather than reading it, it's on the wall, they can see it, along with what they're actually reading, and the Blackfeet words, the language that's also being incorporated into that. And that's kind of our primary goal. We want to, visualize the culture, well, our culture specifically, because it's, who we are, where we come from. And we want to show people that, the culture itself can be visualized, and it's kind of our job to present that in a way that's appealing to the eye, but you're also learning something through that experience. My work is mainly figurative. It would be considered realistic Impressionism, but it's done in a way where it seems like it's realistic, but it's actually an impression of what you're actually seeing. Mine's almost graphic in nature. The lines, the brush strokes, it's very impasto. I usually paint historical references of the Blackfeet people because they were photographed a lot. I try to bring those black and white images into the forefront with color, and I try to bring that person and their personality to now. So it's kind of a contemporary reference to how it was captured then, which was a historical reference, and I try to add more life to that image. I try to bring them to the foreground, and I put some of our cultural references into that, whether it be graphic or incorporating specific sites in this area. So I think for the young artists, they see the work, and I think when we use cultural references to the work itself, I think it sparks that interest in the culture. So I think it directly, ties into the youth, and it's exposing them to the culture, but they can see it, and it's visualizing what it could be. It's who they are and where they come from. So I think that's very important, and I think that's a value we need more of. Improving your ability as an artist is important, but it's also important to mentor and help the youth realize, if they have a talent, where that can go. So I think they see your accomplishments, and I think that's good because then you represent your work in a positive way, and you're also giving back to the community. I have to do it. It's like who I am. It's part of me. And creating, whether it's imagery, a physical object. It's something that I have to do. It's something in my mind where I have to create something. It's just part of who I am.
Lewis was inspired to art by other talented family members and started drawing and painting at a young age.
I'm Linda Lagarde Grover. I am a member of the Boyce Fort Band of Ojibwe. I am a professor emeritus of American Indian Studies at UMD, and I write. It's a revised and expanded edition of a poetry book that was published in, I think, 2016 by a small independent press. This one is published by the University of Minnesota Press, and it has more poetry, it has a little reorganization. I don't think that there is a single poem in here that does not have some sort of revision to it. It's organized into 4 parts. Much of my writing is organized into 4 parts. Many Ojibwe people's writing is. 4 is a significant number in our beliefs. The first section is kind of a storytelling of some of the ways in which the world was created and how it came to be the way it is today. And so in the first section, I am trying to give the reader an invitation into the world of traditional Ojibwe ways of being. The second section then is much of my boarding school poetry. My family was a boarding school family for a couple of generations, and many of the children in my family were removed from home and sent away to Indian boarding schools. And so from family stories and from my own research, I have a collection of the impact of that really wrenching experience on individuals and families and communities. Then in the third section, it is like the aftermath, trying to pull things together after a great interruption in the existence of Native people. And the fourth section is today, what we are today and how we live today, and kind of reinforcing the values and ways of being that the collection started with. And so it's some people have called this a collective memoir, because it isn't poetry about me so much as it is about my extended family and community and tribe. So Ojibwe language is laced throughout the collection and through some of the poems. Sometimes there is sort of a translation in context, but often there is not something specific, and it is really up to the reader to really look and think about this. I've appreciated the opportunity to revisit and to rewrite and to bring in things that I had written since the time it was first published, and I'm really very, very thankful for the opportunity to have been able to do that. I will have a novel out this fall, and I've written 3 fiction books. My first book was published in 2010, and I was 59 years old when The Dance Boots was published, and so I would like to encourage people who write to continue to do that, and it's the most fun in the world to be writing something.
My advice to young people is the world is so big, and there are so many things that people can do, and I think that oftentimes as Native people, either there are no expectations of us, or there's very narrow expectations. And I met a young man who's he's in his 20s, he was a quantum physicist from the Diné Nation, and it's like, you can be anything, you can do this, but So my advice to them would be to go, be bigger than what anybody's ever thought you could be.
If you missed a show or want to catch up online, find us at nativereport.org and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram for behind-the-scene updates. And drop a comment on social media if you enjoyed the show. Thanks for spending time with your friends and neighbors across Indian country. I'm Rita Karppinen. We'll see you next time on Native Report.
Production for Native Report is made possible by grants from the Blandin Foundation, Anishinaabe Fund, and Alexandra Smith Fund, in support of Native American treaty rights, administered through the Duluth Superior Area Community Foundation. The generous support from viewers like Jack and Sharon Kemp, DSGW Architects, personalizing architecture, online at dsgw.com. And viewers like you.